when this topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion came to me, I am heading the Sriji School of Yoga and a part of the Art of Living. I was wondering what is it that, I could contribute out here. And then I went through a very, I got an email and I read about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I said, hey, we are actually practicing it in the Art of Living. Today, the Art of Living, I don't know, how many of you know about Art of Living? Oh, many of you are. Good. Okay. So this organization has got its footprint about 180 countries. And, we've been, it's one of the largest volunteer-based organizations. So when you're talking about diversity, you have people of all kinds of people who are part of it and who feel that equal sense of ownership. You spoke about belongingness. That sense of ownership is there with every individual. Whether you're talking about, a volunteer who's there in a village, who has the freedom and the creativity in him or her to initiate a project, or you're talking about a person who's sitting at the International Center and, thinking about how to implement big programs. So it's an organization of the people, by the people. So I felt that, okay, this is one place where we can definitely speak about, because we've lived those tenets, we breathe those diversity, equity, and inclusion right through. So with this, I now invite my panelists to introduce yourselves.
Thank you, Vasanthi. So I'm Veena Ramagopalan. I have around 25 plus years of I should say diverse or versatile experience. Started my journey very differently, unlike many women in the country. I'm from the first batch of women officers in the Indian Navy. Post that, thank you. Post that, the corporate bug bit me as well, like many of you here. So did a very long tenure in corporate around, and my last tenure was with Philips, where I've held various senior strategic and leadership role. And connecting the dots, in terms of, in this topic DI itself, is where I felt that I need to do something to give back. And that's how this company of mine got started, which is Inroads Leadership Development, where it's all about sharing. I'm not actually from HR per se. A lot of people think that me starting this leadership development is I'm from a HR background, but I'm not. But it's more in terms of, when I was in terms of my own career journey, how do I share my experience? And also in terms of how I push myself in terms of this journey itself, where, I help people and supporting people in terms of challenging their limiting belief and supporting them in terms of thriving in their career or in their personal life. That's about me. I'm really looking forward to this discussion with all my panelists here. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mallika Sridhar. I'm a public policy professional. And like this panel itself, which is very diverse, I come from a very different background, not from an HR background. I'm an engineer who changed course into public policy. I have a decade-long work experience on the field in government advisory, in the impact space, working for one of India's largest philanthropic organizations, Tata Trusts. And now currently I've forayed onto the corporate side, where I lead Godrej's corporate affairs efforts in the South region. So that's a little bit about me. I'm very excited to be here with all my panelists, and I've had some very, very enriching discussions. And like Roopashri and Veena ma'am both said, this is something that is so intrinsic, DEI, having worked in impact, having worked across different sectors. This is something that needs to be mandated, but also needs to come from within. And that is what all the organizations that we have represented strive for. We as individual women have striven for, and look forward to having some of those engaging learnings in this panel. Thank you.
Good evening, all of you. It's quite indeed a pleasure to be here. And I'm not sure whether consciously the organizers did it. What an example of DE on the stage itself, all the panels. And congratulations to the organizers. Coming back to me, I have put in almost over 3 decades of my career. Started in advertising, then moved on to Aditya Birla Group. Had 2.5 decades in hardcore telecom as marketing head, brand head. Another example, living example on DE, which I moved to our foreign partner Axiata, based out of headquartered in Malaysia, operating in 12 countries, heading the group marketing. Again, a good classic example of TA. And back in India with Aditya Birla Group since '97, now currently the senior VP, looking after new business ventures, predominantly into all the new businesses which we venture into. Largely the renewable business, sustainability. These are my areas. So that's about me. Thank you.
So I think I've done. I'll pass. You can start with the question.
So like Mr. Binoy said, it's a very, very diverse audience. And there's a lot for all of us to learn from each one of them. So to start with you, Mallika, as an experienced public policy professional, currently holding, leading corporate affairs at Godrej, what strategies can organizations implement to ensure equity in hiring, promotions, and opportunities for advancement? Could you share from the Godrej DEL experience? I think you have a Godrej DEL lab also.
Yes.
So you can share with everybody.
Yes,
what all you do.
as you would all know, Godrej is one of India's oldest conglomerates, and DEI is very intrinsic to the culture of Godrej. It is very intrinsic to the value of creating good amongst people, amongst our employees, in the community that we work with. And we also subscribe to the CII ASSOCHAM Code of Conduct for Affirmative Action. So DEI is something that has been ingrained within our work throughout. And now recently in October 2023, the DEI lab was constituted, which is headed by Mr. Parmesh Sahani. And the work that is being done has been built upon a decade long of work that has been done by the India Culture Lab. So right from systemic to structural incapacities that exist in the corporate world, Godrej is trying to solve all of them in the DEI lab through many of their initiatives. Firstly, through hiring, looking at, awareness sessions, looking at, how spaces are more accessible to people across different groups, marginalized groups, people who have been excluded in the society. So a couple of examples that I would like to share, and I would definitely like to highlight, this is the inaugural DEI report 2023-24. Please reach out to me if you would like to just have a look at how and what we do for DEI. It's extremely extensive. And across all of our business units, and Godrej has, it's a conglomerate, like I said, 5 businesses, Godrej Properties, real estate, that is being one, financial services to agriculture, FMCG, across all of them, right from hiring to training to having employee resource groups, to putting together, safe accommodation, providing healthcare services for gender affirmation surgeries. All of these initiatives have been taken up by Godrej. Our healthcare policies are extremely inclusive. We have recently included elder care policy. We have also, increased leave for secondary caregivers, non-birthing parents. So from that point of view, extremely inclusive in the kind of policies we roll out. Also, just to highlight, some of our hiring and headcounts are extremely great. We want to do better on those. There's a 21% women headcount, 26% hiring that has happened up to, that has been upped by almost 2 percentage points from the last year. We want to do better on leadership hiring. There are 41% women on our board, And we have 2% LGBTQ representation across the Godrej group, which we definitely want to do better. Please do reach out to me for these numbers on the way we can collaborate, how you can be better allies to work with us to ensure that our communities and our employees can access safe and inclusive workspaces. So I do think that some of these efforts are work in progress, and June having been the Pride month, there are a lot of activities going on in Godrej right now, right from movie screenings to fostering allyship to creating, having awareness camps on health, inclusion, and some of these efforts are really amazing. As someone, as a public affairs professional, and I highlight a little bit more about what I do, but as a DEI enthusiast, more so. Thank you.
Would any one of you all like to add up?
So just to add to what she just shared, so I'm just trying to share in terms of my experience with some of the clients as to what are the different strategies they adopt to make DEI successful in their organization. I think first and foremost, the most important aspect which I've seen where some of the organizations are successful is the leadership commitment, which actually starts from the top. If you really want to make DEI successful, it actually starts from the top. And then, of course, it needs to percolate down to the middle level and then the employees in large. So, and the second aspect is that when you are touching this DEI with respect to any segment, it shouldn't be that you have a program or you have a plan only for that particular segment and you're addressing that. It should actually be you're pretty much touching or sensitizing the entire organization related to that. Say, for example, in case of when we were trying to drive DI initiative for one of the organization, so they tried to do the gender sensitization workshops across the organization, not just doing an unconscious bias training for the women leaders alone in terms of how they need to navigate the challenges related to unconscious biases. And the third aspect when it comes to DI, which is much, much beyond, in fact, the gender aspect itself, what I have seen is they are trying to really bring in or revisit their processes, the products, the services, which in terms of even the consumers where they actually, there's an impact. Because unless and until you see with the DI lens in terms of all the aspects which is there in your organization, you wouldn't be able to really cater to your consumers which are very diverse in nature. Yep, thank you.
When we're talking about diversity and inclusion, there is a one tenet that, the art of living, there are several tenets that we, internalize and we live. One of the things is accepting people and situations as they are. Now, it's a very simple sentence, but it's a very deeply profound sentence. And here we're talking about active acceptance. That is, if there is a person who's there in front of me and behaving in a particular manner, accepting it, accepting the situation as it is, and then responding to it. I think, these small little tenets, when we start living it and internalizing, when you were talking just now, I just reflected saying that, how is it that it's become part of art of living so very naturally? Then I realized that it is these tenets that we internalize and we live that has made it so very easy for all of us. Okay, coming to Mr. Binoy. Binoy ji, you carry a diverse senior managerial work experience across the globe as group marketing head at Axiata and now in your current role at the Aditya Birla Group. Has diversity, equity and inclusion been part of your working process? And if yes, how has it found expression within your company? What do you think is its importance in defining future workspaces?
Thanks, Mrs. Vasanthi. I can proudly say that I myself is a classic example of DI. Let me talk in the global perspective because of that multiple countries, and that's the best case which I've gone through. In Axiata Group, they are the largest telecom digital conglomerate headquartered in Malaysia. So the policy for the company, which has been followed for almost since 2010, what they do is they apply a 7:2:1 ratio. What exactly is this 7? All the leadership talents, 7% has to be from the OPCO, which is the operating companies. They operate in almost 11 countries, which is Malaysia, Singapore, Sri Lanka, India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Cambodia, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, all these areas. So the this ratio of 7:2:1, 7 leadership roles has to be from within the operating country, 2 from the group headquarters in Malaysia. So there, see, I had a boss which is originally a Malaysian, then a British boss, Simon Perkins. So multiple, there was an Indian also in between. So it's a good combination and operating in multiple countries. And the 7:2, the 2 is from group. And the 1, I was lucky to be that one in 2013. So that's from external, outside the group. So the association, the business association between Axiata and Aditya Birla Group, which is in those days Idea Cellular, was they had close to 20% stake in Idea. And how it transformed is, look at in the year 2008, it was the reverse. 70%, it was not 70, 80% of the people has to be from outside, global perspective. So it's a classic example. They need, act local, act global, but you should be in the local. And 20% was the local. Then later they transformed. Another example on DI which they very successfully implemented is in 2010 is the first female CFO in the group, which is in Indonesian operations. Similarly, the first CTO, which has happened again in 2011. And 2015, the first CEO for the group is again a female. So it's a very good classic example. And I think what has driven Axiata is basically working in different countries. They need to integrate this kind of a DAI process. Then only you can be market leaders. That too in telecom, which is highly concerned with the local dialects and the systems which is prevailing in each of these countries. And each country behaves totally different. I always used to say in these kind of forums that, if you look at India, it's a combination of at least 18 odd countries within the country. So I think I have clarified or I've done justice to it. Thank you.
I wanted just to add on to one more question. How do DI considerations be? I think this you've already answered. What can organizations learn from DEI best practices in other countries or regions?
Yeah. I'll tell you, they have a wonderful process which, we talk about mentoring, reverse mentoring. Everybody, all the leaders has to at least dedicate 20% of their time committed to social cause. So what happens is, what is the essence of DEI? It's, you should learn the art of the humility, to a certain extent, grounded and, that kind of a system you will learn only when you work at the grassroots level. So when somebody, any leaders which is getting or committing 20% of their time to a social cause, that's the best way they are really getting into it and learning. So, and they create these criteria for leadership assignments and leadership process, selection process. So it's rather a bottoms-up approach. It's always easier to drive down from top to bottom. Then the message is very clear. So it's a fantastic thing. Then they have Axiata Young Talents, which is a very successful thing. What happens is they will identify, there's some process set, and even the senior professors from Harvard, they are assigned, they are based out of Malaysia, they do this course correction, which they identify talents at college days itself, then they train, groom them to be the leaders, be it politics, be it in the professional sphere. So it's a very good example which we all could do. And I just add one more thing, though I'm not from the HR thing, but there's a wonderful thing which just happened just hardly a month back in Aditya Birla Group. The HR is taking an initiative to have dedicated 2 to 4 weeks committed by leaders, the job band 8 onwards upwards, which is up to 3, which is at C level, CXO level people. So they can dedicate, their salary, everything is done, dedicatedly 2 to 4 weeks committed to any of the social cause. It could be touching the lives of society. It could be in the sector of education, children. So this is an amazing thing. And then women empowerment, if you look at it, the way they are treated, very clear demarcation for X number of, or X percentage of female CXO should be there at leadership roles. I think that's fair.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Roopashri, the next one is for you. Sure. You mentioned that Broadridge is now transforming from a capability center into, into a product company, a
business center and an innovation hub.
Center. So what will be the role of DI in accelerating this transformation?
Yeah, I think when I spoke, I kind of touched on it, without DEIB as a layer or as a fabric of the culture, we can't transform. We can't think of transforming because if you have to transform, you need to have diverse people on board. You need to have that diverse thinking which will challenge, because like I said, we are 20 years in India, and service mindset to product or business, to make that shift, the new energy from outside has to come and also challenge the existing processes. So hence it becomes important what is our hiring strategy looks like. So how are we expanding our, like how are we going behind non-traditional talent pools? So and also like we are very conscious of what is our input looks like, especially at a fresher, when we hire freshers. So we make sure more than 50% is women. And we've also gone ahead and done, I think it's the second time in a row, we have hired socioeconomic background girl students who are joined us as interns. So that's the program we are running. So, and in everything, like I said, in every step of the way that is in the employee life cycle, we need to have these tweaks made. So when it comes to development, we call it breaking the barriers. So under that umbrella, we run a lot of things, a lot of learnings, learning about what is this DEI is all about, to also skill set building topics, sessions we run there. And also when it comes to promotions, because we said like once it seeps in hiring through not having inclusive language and not having inclusive panel, that seeps into rest of the processes, like I said. So when it comes to internal promotions also, especially for leadership, we have a cross-BU panels. And in that cross-BU panels, there is also a woman leader who makes sure is the part of the panel who looks into the promotion list. And then, of course, they go through a very rigorous selection process before they are promoted. So those are some of the initiatives. And I would like to call out a few. There are more, but these are few, which is helping us propel forward in this journey.
When you were talking about, see, at the end of the day, whatever we are all talking about boils down to the individual. And when you're talking about hiring practices, generally, like when we discussed earlier, we are stuck to the CV, the biodata that comes. But one needs to go beyond that and look at the individual. Now, sometimes it's very difficult to, gather all the information about the individual within that, half an hour of interview or whatever. But I feel that if more attention is paid to the individual, I personally believe that the potential of a human being is it's immeasurable. It's immense. Just to give you an example, I shared with you earlier also, we have an iconic structure in the art of living, and I invite all of you to come to the ashram and have a look at the place. So that iconic, the structure, it's an architectural wonder actually, was built by a chemical engineer. He did not know C of civil engineering. But it is the leader, like you said, it needs to run from the top. This entire ethos of, or the ideology of diversity, equity, and inclusion has to run from the top. So he believed that, this chemical engineer can make this project a success. And he gave that freedom, that scope to make mistakes. So when that happened, what happened was the individual blossomed, and then the project was a great success. Same thing, if we have one business unit in the art of living, which is run by a 10th standard pass student, or 10th standard pass or fail, I don't know. So, and he's a Gujarati person, he's doing a very good job of it. So the inherent potential of if there is some way that we can all come about and identify that inherent potential in that person beyond just the CV, I think we'll go a long way in probably, anyway, all of you are living examples of people who have already done DEI in your personal lives and also in the workspace that you are. But I just felt that, I could share this point. One last question to you, Mallika. You had mentioned, how do you see, you're largely from the public affairs domain, right? So how do you see diversity in public affairs, and how has your role been important in having a dialogue with external stakeholders about the work that you do?
Thank you. So I think as a public affairs professional, it is very important that we communicate the ethos of our organization to our external stakeholders. And we do have very important stakeholders in this room. We have ASSOCHAM, and thank you for inviting us. And we also have the inaugural session saw Mr. E.V. Ramana Reddy, and soon we will have the Minister for Skill and Development from Karnataka. So it's very important for us to communicate and partner with different governments on our efforts, because both of these entities, the government as well as the corporate sector, are trying to advance or trying to look at how communities can become more resilient, how they can be more diverse, they can be more inclusive. And from that point of view, I would just like to highlight that Godrej has recently opened up a new manufacturing unit in Tamil Nadu, where they have committed to hire 50% women in manufacturing and 5% LGBTQ. This has also been enabled because Tamil Nadu government has very progressive policies. They are coming up with a draft policy to end discrimination against LGBTQ people. Karnataka also has 1% reservation for all trans people horizontally across all sectors. So as a public affairs professional, my role is to take not only DEI initiatives forward, but all impact initiatives forward to partner effectively with the government. I would just like to pause and highlight, as a very senior naval officer, I think Ms. Veena has a plethora of experience of working with the government as well as working in the corporate. So just love to hear her journey.
Thank you. So when I say the journey, of course, I think not just me. I think most of you sitting here in the audience has got, and in the panel has got very diverse journey. So for me, I think when it comes to my journey, I think it also started. I didn't know probably that I was actually living the DEI or even that unconscious bias, which actually we were experiencing as a child or when you're growing up as a girl. So probably that journey determined, because I come from a family where there were only girls, and there were always a lot of eyebrows or questions raised on my parents when they were pushing us to study hard or get into a professional degree and things like that. And I still remember when you are just saying this, I was just remembering one of my classmates, my engineering classmate, asking me, why did you join engineering? You wasted one of the seat in the college, because in any case, you would anyway, become a housewife or get married and things like that. So I think, all these, for women as such, I'm sure all of us would relate to this. A lot of times we are, while we are growing up, there's a lot of unconscious biases or the stereotypes typically which comes in onto you, and that also pushes us hard to really, experiment, explore, and go into the spaces or the opportunities where women typically don't go, and that's what happened to me. Where when the opportunity came in terms of when Government of India decided to hire women in the armed forces, without even, I had a doubt in my mind, I was very sure that I need to apply there. And I didn't even discuss that with my parents initially, and I just applied. And then post that, of course, I mentioned it out to them. And as a typical protective parents, they were like wondering, as like, you are an engineer, why do you want to get into the armed forces? So it was also related to, I wanted something, to prove yourself or prove, why is it that women are not there at all, in these organizations or the spaces. And if I look at my journey, I think and all the transitions I've done, from defense to corporate, then to being an entrepreneur, I think it's all about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, and that's really is one thing. And whenever you are facing any stereotypes or the biases, I think what helped me, I think, is having those conversations and speaking up openly to the people around me in terms of if certain things have been, unfair. And I think that makes a lot of difference, and that's what I would advise most of the women. We all face, everything cannot be ironed out over a period of, within a day or two, in spite of me doing a lot of training and coaching. But it's also about the women themselves, trying to stand up for themselves in terms and navigating those challenges which are there in front of them and grabbing the opportunities which come in front of them. And that's a very, very important aspect.
Thank you so much. So with this we'll come to the end of the session. I would just like to say in one word that diversity, equity and inclusion can happen in our daily lives, in our personal lives, if we just adopt one word in our life, which is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one world family. If we just believe in that, then there's no question of saying, okay, the world is different, it's one family. Jai Guru.